This week in 1582, Pope Gregory XIII instituted the Gregorian calendar, and the entire Catholic world jumped ahead 10 days to cancel the Julian calendar that had been in use since the 4th century before Christ. Everyone, that is, except England. Now, why didn't England change with the rest of the world, and how does that impact our understanding of when things happened for the life of William Shakespeare? Let's find out right now on That Shakespeare Life. The Julian calendar was first implemented by Julius Caesar in 46 BC. Since the Roman emperor's system miscalculated the length of the solar year by 11 minutes, the calendar has since fallen out of sync with the seasons. Now, one of the biggest problems caused by messing up by just 11 minutes. Now, take a minute to be really impressed that it was only off by 11 minutes, but still, the problem that this created was with calculating when you're supposed to celebrate Easter in religious circles. Now, the Council of Nicaea in 325 AD sent a decree that Easter was supposed to be celebrated on the first Sunday following the first full moon after the vernal equinox. Yes, that is in fact the most complicated date. I don't know why the Council of Nicaea decided that this would be the rules. They had a lot of definitions and religious reasons, I'm absolutely certain, but that's a conversation for another episode. Today, what I'm telling you is that Easter generally fell on March 21st. Now, the growing distance, right, because every year the calendar was a little bit off. So the growing distance between the date that the Council of Nicaea said we were supposed to celebrate it and the actual vernal equinox got noted along the way, and people were like, that's a little off and it needs to be corrected. But nobody did anything about it until eventually the church just was like, fine, we have to fix this. And in 1562 or possibly 1563, there was a gathering called the Council of Trent. And they came in and said, okay, you Pope, you need to fix this problem with the calendar and create a reformed system. And the Pope was like, cool, but how do I do that? So he went looking for a system that would replace the calendar. And that's when one Italian scientist came up with an ingenious solution that impressed Pope Gregory and solved the church's issue with Easter. Aloysius Lilius entered the scene, and he used a leap year to bridge the gap. He devised a variation that adds leap days in years divisible by 4. And anyway, there's a whole lot of rules, and it has a lot to do with divisible by 100, and unless it's divisible by 400. But either way, he put in his new system, and his system, instead of being off by 11 minutes, is only off by 26 seconds. I could not have the patience to put that together. Way to go, Aloysius! So Pope Gregory comes in and he unveils this new system in 1582. He basically waves a wand and says, voila, we are all going to jump ahead in 10 minutes. This is my very bad Italian accent. But anyway, everybody jumps ahead 10 days and the vernal equinox gets reassigned from March 11th to March 21st. Everybody's back on track. Easter's where it's supposed to be. Everyone's happy. And they decided that in order to miss all of the religious holidays when they're implementing this in the first year, they said, okay, look, we're going to celebrate all the religious holidays on the days they're assigned up through October, and then we will have done all of them by then. And so we can switch during October, and we won't miss any feast days, right? We won't be skipping over any to jump ahead 10 days. So after the feast of St. Francis of Assisi that happened on October 4th, 1582, the very next day was October 15th. Boom, 10 days. Blows my mind. I'm sure it does you too. But it gets worse. Now, places like England, which were Protestant and therefore didn't care what the Catholic Church did and definitely did not want to do what the Pope said that they were supposed to do, and Orthodox countries also felt this way. No, we're not following the Pope. So they just said, no, I think we won't follow the Gregorian calendar. So what this meant is across Europe, certain countries were following the new calendar and other countries were not. So places like Austria, Spain, Portugal, Italy, Poland, and the Catholic states of Germany jumped ahead 10 days while the rest of the continent stayed where they were. This meant that if you were traveling in Europe during this time and you crossed across a border, you were now time traveling. You were literally jumping ahead 10 days or jumping back 10 days just to go into a neighboring country. Oh, the craziness. Now, in England, the Julian calendar actually remained in use not only throughout Shakespeare's lifetime, but it continued to be used in England until the mid-18th century. So when you're studying Shakespeare's life, if the event happens after the 5th of October in 1582, you have to add 10 dates to the Julian calendar to find out the date in our calendar today. Now, this adjusts every century by one more day. So after 1700, you add one more day, and then every century you move away from 1582, you're adding one more day. The 1700s is 11 days, the 1800s is 12 days, and so on. This whole kerfuffle over the calendar is also why, if you study the early history of the United States, you'll find that colonists in places like Jamestown and Plymouth celebrated their New Year's Day in the middle of March, because they were still following the old calendar. The Julian calendar was still being followed right through the early 17th century, just like their home country of Britain. In fact, in the US today, still follows the Gregorian calendar because England finally switched from the Gregorian calendar in 1752, a full 20 years before the colonies would declare independence from Britain. So it came over here. It was a new system in England. And so the colonists brought it with them and they were following what England did. So that's a fun little overlap of Shakespeare history with US history there for you. That's it for this week. I'm Cassidy Cash. Thank you so much for watching and exploring the life of William Shakespeare here with me. If you like this kind of history, please hit that like and subscribe button.